joining us for the final countdown to the Property Investor Show. It is taking place at Excel this week, Friday and Saturday, and Property Investor Show is back after an 18-month absence due to COVID-19. But as always, it attracts the premier commentators from the property sector. And my next guest is no exception to that. It's David Cox, who many of you will remember from his time at Arla. And now David is talking to us from Rightmove Towers. And David, it's lovely to see you again. What are you doing at Rightmove now?
Thank you very much. It's lovely to see you too, Vanessa, and I'm very much looking forward to the show on Friday and Saturday. So yes, I'm at Rightmove, and I think I've been speaking at this show through many different jobs over the year. I think I am now on my third role. But having left the Association of Residential Letting Agents last year, I'm now Rightmove's Legal and Compliance Director, so responsible for making sure that Rightmove complies with all necessary laws. But also a key part of my role is helping consumers who use Rightmove and the letting and estate agents who are Rightmove's customers, making sure they're complying with the law so that what you are seeing on Rightmove is the very best representation of a property that is for sale or let and is compliant with all the necessary rules and regulations that go alongside that.
Fantastic. And that's very much what you're going to be talking about at the show as well, isn't it?
I
think, compliance is such an important topic for landlords. We know that there are over 168 government statutes and regulations that landlords need to be compliant with to provide a safe and compliant home for their tenants. And I think landlords have to be aware that even if they are working with a letting agent on a fully managed service, that the buck does actually stop with them. So they do need to have some understanding of these rules and regulations, don't they?
You're absolutely right. And it's why some of the presentations that are going on, some of the panel sessions that are going to be happening throughout the course of the show on Friday and Saturday are so important, whether or not you are a self-managing landlord and therefore, you have to do it all, or whether you're using a letting agent, because as you've just said, the buck stops with the landlord at the end of the day. Even if the agent is non-compliant, in a lot of cases, it will still mean that the landlord is the one that gets prosecuted. So we've had a pandemic for the last 18 months, but that hasn't really stopped things. The laws have been changing during that. If we think electrical safety regulations have come in during the pandemic, and despite a lot of calls from many parts of the industry that laws should basically be paused whilst we were going through everything that we have as a nation, as a world over the last couple of years, they haven't. Local authorities have been creating licensing schemes, so landlords need to make sure they are getting the licenses for the properties that may have come in before the pandemic or during. And certainly my view is we are just about to start going into a whole new series of reforms. We've already started to hear noises out of the newly named Department for Levelling Up Housing and Communities. Nothing like a new name change for government department. I was talking to some colleagues earlier where I think in the length of time that I've worked in this industry, we're on our 6th different government department name. Nothing's really changed. It's still the same government department, but it loves a good rebrand every couple of years. And I think I'm onto something like my 19th housing minister at this point in time as well. And I haven't really been working in the sector for 19 years. So there we go. That says a lot. But there's always a lot of change in our industry, and that is the important thing. It's why landlords need to be up to date. I know this is going to be my first physical appearance at an event since the beginning of the pandemic. I know a lot of landlords will be in the same situation, a lot of agents will be in the same situation. So it's so important that after 18 months of nothingness, we go and get what is the latest, what's going on, what am I going to need to be thinking about for my portfolio, my tenants, my livelihood as a landlord going forward. And it's why events like this, I know I'm really looking forward to it, Vanessa. I think we're going to have some great discussions, some great engagement with key people in the industry. I'm looking forward to seeing loads of people there at the weekend.
Well, so am I, and I think you've summed up very eloquently there so many benefits of landlords and property investors attending the show. I'd be interested to hear your view, David, that I personally think that the risks associated with being a landlord have been significantly amplified by the COVID-19 lockdowns and the ensuing economic fallout, which I think we're just beginning to experience. We've got the end of furlough, we've got the end of the stamp duty holiday, we've got the the universal credit returning to pre-pandemic levels. There's a lot of things coming together, and I can't help kind of feel that we might be heading towards a perfect storm. And I think this really highlights to me the importance of getting out to an event such as the Property Investor Show, where everything is in one hall. You've got all the people you could possibly need to speak to get the right advice, and it's a risk mitigation tool in its own right. Do you agree?
I couldn't agree more, and I think you're absolutely right on that. With all the financial assistance coming to an end, coupled with a massive backlog in the courts, effectively we've lost Section 21 before they've actually banned it, because the length of time it is going to take through the court to actually get a Section 21 eviction is so long now that it's almost not worth trying. So we are in, and I agree, we are in a perfect storm, and we're only just starting to see it, because if we think about it, the furlough scheme only came to an end at the end of last month. Those people have had a paycheck up until then. This month, October 2021, is going to be the month where people unfortunately are being let go. And therefore, this is where, even if they'd been able to during the pandemic, as a result of furlough, maybe not afford 100% of the rent, but they've been able to contribute because they'd still got an income coming in. Is that going to be the case? It's a very difficult time for lots and lots of people, landlords particularly. So any opportunity to come and learn, to get a little bit of knowledge for people that do this day in, day out. Because for a lot of landlords, it's not their main job. Of course it's not. They've got careers themselves, but the vast majority of landlords want to do well by their tenants. They want to maintain those tenancies, provide good quality accommodation. This is the opportunity to come and make sure that they're doing it properly. Great opportunity to look at where is the next best place to invest in the future. I'm sure we're going to have some stats and facts on market conditions around the country during some of those panel sessions and presentations on Friday. So it's a great opportunity, whether you are new into the market, whether you're a seasoned investor, or anything kind of in between. There's something there and available for everybody. So I know I look forward to meeting as many as possible. I think I've got 3 shows on Friday. So I look forward to seeing you at an event.
I know you'll agree with me, David, that property is such a people-orientated business, not least that our tenants, we have legal obligations to them, as we've said. But I regard my letting agent and my tax advisor and my mortgage broker, I regard them actually as almost like partners in my business. And I think in times, any time you've got to get the right advice from the right source, but in times of trouble or times of turbulence, which we're in now, it's even more important. And I think some landlords tend to work a little bit in isolation, and there's actually no need when you've got forums like Property Tribes, you've got resources like the NRLA, you've got all the Rightmove landlord hub information, and you've got physical events like the Property Investor Show. You've really got to take advantage of these and just dive in and almost become like a property sponge, haven't you?
Couldn't agree more. And as the complexity of the industry increases, with law after law after law being passed, how much of it is enforced is an entirely different matter, but a lot of it is being passed, and landlords want to be compliant, and therefore you need that knowledge. It's that old adage, if you don't know what you don't know, and therefore the huge variety of things that are on offer are there to help you be the very best landlord that you can. And I've been doing webinars throughout the whole of the pandemic, as have you, as have many. There's been a lot, but this is the first real physical event in the industry. And I think there's nothing really better than actually being able to come and talk to people, because putting a message on a webinar chat, you never quite get you'll only ever get a generic answer. Here, you'll be able to put your actual question and get a specific answer to a specific question, rather than the more generalist kind of advice that you'd get on a webinar, for example. You get to actually see the people ask your specific question. So it's a great opportunity. And with all the written material that is out there from so many different sources, you can get that generic advice, and you need to get that generic advice because you need to understand it in the round so that you understand where to go when you've got a specific question.
Yeah, and I find it quite scary, David, that I still speak to landlords that don't know about tenancy deposit protection. I still speak to landlords that don't know about the new EPC energy regulations coming in. I spoke to a landlord who merrily told me he was going to expand his portfolio in Glasgow, and I said, oh, haven't you heard of rent controls coming in? What I'm trying to say, David, is that you mentioned you don't know what you don't know. It's that's going to trip you up. And I think the days of the amateur landlords, that COVID's going to make sure they're over, because it's exposed weak business models. And I think landlords actually investing their time to get out to the show is showing a commitment to being, you know, a professional landlord. And indeed, one of the panel debates and seminars is how to be a professional landlord, because that's the way that, you know, that's the direction of travel of the government as well, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen successive governments of multiple different colours, I would say, as well, pushing the concept of institutional investment. It's taken a long time, but it is really starting to take off now. And I think that is something that is going to be a new business model for the future. There is literally billions of pounds being pumped into this at the moment from hedge funds, pension funds, investors all over the world, because there is a housing shortage in the UK. And although the housing market has slightly changed as a result of COVID, and there has been less pressure maybe in London, but more pressure outside of London, and we've seen house prices and rents rise really everywhere apart from within the M25. And some of them have been racing. Yeah, there are significant increases, particularly in house prices as a result of the pandemic, and people wanting a different lifestyle. So I think there are huge opportunities out there for landlords and the ability to capitalize, but you need to understand the market in which you're operating, the landscape in which you're operating, and what is to come. And there is a lot of new laws that are to come. You just mentioned rent controls are being discussed and, well, put forward even now in Scotland. We've got the idea of some form of regulation of the property industry in England as well. We're talking about much higher energy efficiency standards at the moment. So one of the things we've got to look to the future on is a minimum EPC by 2025. And if you can't get there, you've got to spend at least £10,000. That might be okay for properties in central London, but £10,000 to retrofit a property in Newcastle could be 2 years' rent potentially. It's a huge amount of money, and therefore landlords need to move into this new world with their eyes open. They need to understand what they've got coming, and they need to be able to plan and put proper business models together. Because I think a lot of landlords, oh, this is kind of my hobby, which, yeah, I appreciate that is, but in your day-to-day business, you wouldn't invest in something without putting a business plan together. Why would you do it in your personal business as well?
You know, the devil is always in the detail in property as well. And I think this is why the show is so great, that you do get that granular level of detail. I guess as we close this out, David, what advice would you give to somebody who's attending the show? It is free tickets, we have to say. We'll put the link underneath, along with all the links to David's speaking engagements at the show. What advice would you give somebody to get the most out of the show, David? I like to say I'm going to be wearing some trainers, because I'm going to be walking a lot and standing a lot and talking a lot. But also, I think it's quite nice to encourage people not to be afraid to ask questions, particularly when they go into the panel debates and the seminars.
I would say two things. For the panel debates, go to the panel debates. They're there to help you, to give you the knowledge that you need to go and talk to the exhibitors downstairs about what is in the best interests of your properties and your portfolio. But ask the questions. We are there to provide the answers that you want. And something that I've said at seminars for years and years and years, if you're thinking it, I can absolutely guarantee that at least half of that audience is thinking exactly the same. So have the courage to put your hands up and ask the question. I can assure you, I have never had a silly question in the 12 years, I think, something like that I've been doing these sort of sessions. Every question we get is a sensible question. I might give you a long rambling answer, by the way, that's just me. But ask the questions upstairs so that you go armed with the knowledge for when you go downstairs. And with the exhibition, though the exhibitors are there, they want to speak to you, they want to help you. Do feel free to approach them. Don't be nervous. They are there to do business with you. So do feel free, and do please visit the exhibitors downstairs, because that is where you will get even more advice and tailored to your exact specific needs.
Yeah, I think going to the show is also igniting serendipity, to meet new people, new ideas, different angles on things that maybe you didn't consider. And we both agree, don't be shy, and do talk to people. And I'm doing my Holiday Let's panel as well. I hope people come and join me for that. But David, I just want to say thank you very much for joining us on this Zoom call. And I've always said this about you. You are so knowledgeable, but you're also so approachable. And I've always very much appreciated how supportive you've been of us at Property Tribes and the wider property community. And I'm so glad that you're part of the show, and your credentials are being brought to the show, and all your knowledge as well. So thank you very much for joining us on this call, and also for being part of the Property Investor Show this autumn. Well,
Vanessa, I look forward to seeing you on Friday, and everybody viewing this, I look forward to seeing you. I'm going to be there all day on Friday, so do please come and say hello to me. I'll be around from probably about 10 o'clock in the morning. I think I've got 3 panel sessions that I'm speaking at, but I'm going to be there really 10 till 5. So please do come and ask. And yeah, I will answer any question within my knowledge. And if I don't know the answer, I will try and point you to somebody that does.
So, well, thank you so much. Be wonderful to see you there. So it's this Friday and Saturday, 15th and 16th of October. Tickets are free. There's no excuse not to be there. We're going to be there. We hope to see you there as well. Thank you for watching.